What's happening, everyone? My name is James Lynch, and this is the Fanatics View Hockey Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you guys have any questions, post them in the chat. I'll get to every single one of them during this stream. We got a lot to get into today. I know last week or last Friday, we ended up doing a trade reaction show. We'll recap some of the trades that did end up going down yesterday. A big one happened right when we went off air yesterday, or on Friday, I should say, when we did this show. So we'll get into that, get you all caught up on the week. First and foremost, though, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell. You got to subscribe to submit questions. I'm a little tired here today, guys. I was at the Canucks game last night against Montreal. I got to see it firsthand. Wasn't very good if you were someone that supports the Vancouver Canucks, because Montreal ended up scoring two early ones, I should say, and then a goal in the second period. Canucks were down 3-0. They did claw back in this one, ultimately losing 4-2, and they got a big game tonight against Calgary. We'll tee that up a little bit as the playoff race in the West gets very interesting. Let's start first with the some of the games last night. We'll kind of recap all that action. Then we'll talk about some stuff on the channel. Then we'll go into trade deadline. And then, like I said, whatever you guys want to chat about, we can certainly do that. Again, this is your show as much as it's mine. You guys can drive this thing as much as you want. Okay, so a bit of an upset here yesterday. We're going to start first with the Pittsburgh Penguins getting it done in overtime. Now, the Penguins were up in this one 2-0 in the second period. Vegas ends up coming back, making it interesting. Penguins getting it done in the overtime. Ilya Samsonov in net for the Golden Knights, only making 14 saves on 17 shots. So I haven't heard much about him this year. It was something I think we talked about on the deadline show last week. I don't know how he's doing this season. I haven't seen a whole lot from him, but again, getting some offense here from Noah Hanifin, Pavel Dofeev, also Mark Stone and Jack Eichel getting assists on that one too. So the Penguins, I mean, they're out of the playoffs. They were in selling mode during the deadline, but nice to see them get a win here. The Devils getting it done over the Blue Jackets. Jackets still clawing their way into that playoff picture in the Eastern Conference. Again, we'll look at the standings here in a second, but the Devils getting it done. Jackets, Elvis Merzlikins, 23 saves on 28 shots. Then you got, on the other end, Jacob Markstrom standing tall for the Devils. Jesper Bratt getting a goal and 2 assists there. So the Devils continue to do well without their main guy, Jack Hughes. The Bruins and Panthers, if you didn't see this, some good action yesterday. Of course, we'll talk about this a bit later, but Brad Marchand, now a member of the Florida Panthers. Still weird to say. Obviously, Marchand not in the lineup, still dealing with some injuries post Four Nations. Bobrovsky, 22 saves on 25 shots. That they end up coming up short, and the Bruins get it done. Although the Bruins, again, sellers in the deadline. Pasternak with a goal and an assist, and Jeremy Swayman playing well, 24 saves on 26 shots. Just some of these other games, the Senators getting a much needed win. They're looking good in the Eastern Conference. You got the Hurricanes beating the Lightning 4-1. The Wild getting it done in a shootout over the Colorado Avalanche at home. The Jets taking out the Rangers. The Rangers, there's some kind of weird stuff going on with them. I don't know if people have been paying attention. I don't know, their media. There's a Trocheck interview yesterday, or I think it was yesterday or the day before, that was a bit odd. We'll maybe get into that too. The Canucks and the Canadiens. Here's the thing. I can definitely break this game down, because obviously I was there last night. So obviously Canucks got off to a terrible start, but the weird thing was, like, as far as like puck possession, control, all that stuff, Canucks actually played quite well last night. I know that the result looks different, and I will say that Kevin Lankinen, maybe that second goal he would have liked back. The first one he didn't have a whole lot of chance on. He played okay. But I guess the shining light with the Canucks in the game last night was Elias Pettersson scoring on the power play. He has been starving for goals. I couldn't believe it when they were announcing the goal last night and said that he's only got 13 on the season. Like, that's crazy. So Elias Pettersson stepping up. You got Philip Hronek with a goal and an assist. Both shots coming from the point. So that seemed to be the way to beat Sam Montembeault. But you look at the overall shots here. Kevin Lankinen, 23 saves on 26 shots. And then on the other end, Sam Montembeault played quite well in this one, 29 saves on his end. So, and it just came down to, and Rick Tocchet talked about this in the postgame, Montreal's top line just played far better than the Canucks top line. It was noticeable out there. They were making moves. That's the thing. Canucks may have outshot them, but the quality of shots were not that great. A lot of point shots, a lot of, kind of shots in front of the net, things that weren't really getting through. Montreal did a much better job of setting things up. And while I do think, again, Lankinen would have liked that second goal back, I thought throughout portions of the game after that, he played quite well. Again, Canadiens getting the empty netter in the third. So this was fairly close, but ultimately the Canadiens getting it done. Canucks and Calgary tonight. Again, big battle here in the Western Conference. The Capitals beating the Ducks. No surprises there. The Kings getting the win over the Islanders at home. Not surprised there. The Kings are still doing well in the Western Conference. Then you got the Predators and Sharks. Sharks losing 3-2 to the Predators, but not a whole lot going on there. Okay, let's look at some stuff on the channel here on Fanatics View. Again, this is why you guys got to subscribe to the channel. We got post-game stuff with head coach Rick Tocchet, Elias Pettersson. All that's there. Nikita Zadorov, if you guys haven't seen the fight he got into yesterday with Sam Bennett, I highly recommend checking it out. Very good stuff there. We got some Nashville Predators content here as well. Pekka Rinne, Shea Weber. Florida Panthers, Utah. We got almost every team here. So again, one of the big benefits of subscribing to the channel is that you do get all the teams here, which is great. So yeah, if you guys are looking for any post-game content or pre-game content, you can find it here on Fanatics View. Let's have a quick look at the NHL standings and see where everything kind of lies right now. It's very tight in both conferences, Western and Eastern Conference. And you'll see what I mean here as we take a quick look at the standings right now. So no surprises here. Washington Capitals still top of the league, I believe, right? I think they have the most points. Oh, no, they're actually tied with the Jets. But they have a game in hand as the Jets have played 66 compared to 65 for the Capitals. The Panthers slowly behind there. Hurricanes, Leafs, Lightning, Devils, Senators are in a playoff spot, as is Columbus. So Detroit, they were on a bit of a hot streak. They've now dipped a bit, but you can see not a huge difference here, just 4 points between 12th and 7th. So and only 4 points to 8th. Obviously more to get to 7. But yeah, it's really interesting right now. The Rangers and the Canadiens both at 68 points. Canadiens have a game in hand. So if the Canadiens, they technically, if Columbus loses their next game, Montreal wins. Montreal could get in that spot too. So yeah, the race for, pretty much right here. It's going to be very interesting to see who ends up making it. Detroit, like I said, had a good push, but now on the outside looking in. And then obviously you got your, Islanders, Flyers, Penguins, Bruins. That's the thing. The Bruins even are ahead of the Wings right now, although they played 2 more games, but they're still technically in it. So I think a lot of people want to see Columbus make it. I personally would like to see Ottawa make the playoffs. They were a team that I did pick to make the playoffs earlier this year. So, yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on the standings. And quickly going over to the Western Conference, we will have a quick look at the Jets, obviously in the top spot. You got Dallas, Vegas, Colorado, Edmonton, Minnesota, Los Angeles, and then you've got the Canucks who play Calgary tonight. So if the Canucks win, they will be ahead of Calgary, even though they will have 2 games in hand, or a game in hand, I should say. But yeah, things are really tight there. And then you look at 7th. Look at the difference here. LA in 7th, 77 points, much different than the East, where you see Ottawa is just 3 points up on Columbus, whereas it's 7-point difference between the Kings and the Flames, both with the same amount of games played. The Canucks have played more games, so they are behind at 69 points. So again, things getting really tight. Canucks actually tied with St. Louis, although St. Louis has played 1 more game. And look at the Utah. They're just 2 points behind Vancouver as well. So things really heating up in the Western Conference. Okay, let's get to the trade deadline. We got Sean here in the chat mentioning Carolina won the trade deadline, though Florida did pretty well too. I don't think Carolina did win the trade deadline, to be honest. Listen, if we're talking about the actual day, I think it's good that Carolina was able to get something for Mikko Rantanen. But what did we find out? If you guys haven't seen it, I'm actually going to bring up the quote right here. Let me find it. Mikko Rantanen. We find out that from David Pagnotta of the Fourth Period, Mikko Rantanen only wanted to sign with 4 teams. And guess what? One of those teams wasn't Carolina. So I got it. I know there's tampering and all that different stuff that you have to worry about when it comes to other teams inquiring about other players. I understand that. How does Carolina not do their due diligence in acquiring a player that wants to actually stay there? Because this is Jake Getzel all over again, basically, right? Remember last year at the deadline, Hurricanes make a move to get Jake Getzel from Pittsburgh. He doesn't end up resigning. He ends up leaving in the offseason for Tampa Bay. Mikko Rantanen was never going to sign with Carolina. So what was the point in this whole thing? They had to have not known this. And if they didn't know it, why did you not figure that out, that he wouldn't be willing to sign? Did they think that they can convince him with money? I don't know. Now Rantanen ends up signing with Dallas for $12 million, but I think part of that as well is they're a state-free tax. So it's actually going to end up being a lot more than if he had signed somewhere else due to the taxes and all that. But yeah, I don't think Carolina won the deadline. Let's go look at the actual trades that went down. Actually, you know what we might even do? Let me just find a list here. Let's have a quick look. So yeah, we got the report cards here on The Athletic. We'll see if this is probably a better way of kind of looking at some of the moves that were made. Again, if you don't have an Athletic subscription, you can go get it. What did they give Carolina? I'm curious myself to see what The Athletic gave them. So yeah, they gave him a D. I would agree. Because again, they ended up giving up Martin Necas. Now listen, Necas was not happy in Carolina. We knew that previously. But you know, you basically traded Martin Necas for Logan Stankoven. That's who they ended up getting from Dallas, who's had a down year, by the way, and 2 first-round picks. I guess that's a decent return for Necas, but you know, the whole thing with Carolina is they've been trying to get like a superstar to play for them. They had Jake Etzel for a bit, and they had Mikko Rantanen, and they end up with Logan Stankoven, which essentially is, yes, it'll be a cheaper cap hit, and there's definitely some upside with Stankoven. But the other thing, and also they got Jack Drury as well, I should mention. So they got Taylor Hall, Logan Stankoven. Sorry, they traded Jack Drury. That's not my bad. They actually traded him out. So it's Taylor Hall and Logan Stankoven into 2 first-round picks. Here's the problem, though, unless Carolina's going to flip these picks, like the time to win for Carolina is now. Like they've got this group that is pretty much prime and ready to go. The big issue with Carolina is not that they're a bad team. It's that they can't get to the finals. They can't get over the hump in the playoffs. And I think this is the time to get that. Now, Taylor Hall, I don't mind. Good, you know, depth guy, a former first overall pick. But Stankoven, like they're not really in. And actually, we just had it here. Mikko Rantanen signs for how many years? I was going to double check that. Actually, I'll just find it on Puckpedia. But yeah, I tend to agree with what The Athletic said here, that I don't think Carolina won the deadline. If we're looking at certain teams that did well, Dallas Stars have got to be up there. The one thing that I've said about Dallas over the years, and it seems like The Athletic agrees with me here, and I'm not just going to, do this whole article, the whole stream, but I'm just saying I would tend to agree with this. They got the biggest player into the deadline, and that's Mikko Rantanen. And Dallas is a team that has been known to not take big swings. Like last year, they get Chris Tanev, right? That was a good player, certainly worked out for them. But they haven't had that superstar player, and now they have that. And Dallas is also a team that is very good with the cap in terms of what they have to work with, because a lot of their good players are younger players with lower cap hits. They actually re-signed, who did they re-sign? It was, forget, I'm just going to look at it right now. So Dallas is in a good position, and they got the goaltending, right? They've got Jake Ottinger. I think they have a very capable backup as well in Casey DeSmith. And you look at this roster right now, we'll have a quick look. I mean, this is a pretty stacked team, right? So you got even you got Rupe Hintz, Jason Robertson, Granlund they got from San Jose. You got Mikko Rantanen now at, a $12 million cap hit, which again was what apparently Colorado was offering, but it'll end up being more because of what the state free tax. You've got Mason Marchment. You got Matt Duchene at a good cap hit at $3 million. I mean, this is a very, very, very well balanced lineup. And then on defense, they don't even have Miro Heiskanen right now. And they still got Thomas Harley, who's 23, Matt Dumba, good veteran guy, same with Cody Ceci. I look at this team and, find me a more balanced team in the league right now other than maybe Florida. This is a very, very, very interesting team that they put together here. And again, you don't have any sort of bad contracts or anything sort of lingering over them. They have a few buyouts here, right? Ryan Suter being one of them, but nothing to really write home about. But yeah, I tend to agree. I think the Dallas Stars were the winners of this deadline. And I think as far as the losers go, I think it's the Vancouver Canucks. I think they're one of them for sure. They have 3 UFAs that they could not trade. Patrick Allvin coming out and saying that the offers basically weren't very good for Brock Besser. I have a hard time believing that. I think what happened, let's get to the Canucks here. Might as well. And I don't just want to make this a Canucks show all the time, but listen, you got 3 UFAs. You've got a team that this is the issue I have, and I talked about this on the show last week. Even if the Canucks make the playoffs, which right now I think they have a 30% chance of making the playoffs. Even if you think they can make the playoffs, they're not going anywhere. They don't have Thatcher Demko healthy. Quinn Hughes certainly is not healthy. I don't think he'll be ready to go. I think most of the team's banged up. What's the point? To get some playoff revenue? That's the goal here. I think the better idea would have been trading Besser, trading Suter, even trading Derek Forbort, who's a UFA next year. Get something in return. And the people that are saying, well, listen, you trade Besser, what type of offense are you going to have? You trade Suter, who's going to be your third line or second line center? I get all that, but bring guys up from the farm and just call it a day. last night, like Canucks could store, they scored 2 goals. That's it. The offense is a huge problem. It's already an issue. It's not coming for help. My whole thing was, even if you get a second round pick for Besser, you can use those picks in the offseason or during the draft to trade for other assets. And now they didn't take advantage of that. And now Brock's going to walk. He's not coming back. I'd be very surprised if Brock Besser resigns, especially after how Alvin handled that press conference. He basically devalued his own asset by saying that nobody like wanted to trade for him. So yeah, I don't know, man. It's tough. And like I said, even if the Canucks were to make the playoffs, I don't think that they're going to do any damage. This isn't the year to do it, So to answer Steven's question, who lost the most? So I would say, just looking at kind of some of the teams that we got right now, I'd say Vancouver, a team that didn't do a whole lot at the deadline. I'd say the Detroit Red Wings, I don't think did a ton either. Just having a quick look at some of the other teams. They didn't, Nashville didn't get a ton in return for Novak and Shen. Yeah, don't think they did a whole lot. Just having a look here at some of the other acquisitions that came through. Even Tampa Bay did well, right? Getting Yanni Gourde and Bjorkstrad from Seattle. I would put them as a team that did well. Yeah, I'm just trying to think. Oh, and then I guess the other one would be the Jets. You got Ehlers on an expiring contract. Here's the thing, like maybe the Jets are like, we don't want to mess up any team chemistry, and that's why we didn't want to make any big moves. But you've got Ehlers, who is a UFA. Maybe they think they can re-sign him, but I feel like Winnipeg should have taken a bigger swing. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Winnipeg's got some cap space. That's the other thing with Vancouver. They spent this entire season accruing cap space. They had, I think, $13 million. They didn't do anything with it. So all this comes down to them not doing a whole lot. And again, what I think the reason Alvin said that they got bad offers, Patrick Alvin said they got bad offers for Brock Besser, is because they want to make the playoffs, and they think that the fans would be upset if they said that they wanted to make the playoffs. Because I think most Canucks fans know that this is not the year to make a run or anything big's going to happen. They're not going to go on some crazy run this year. Last year, yeah, things were looking much better, but this year, not so much. I'm just looking at Winnipeg right now. As far as cap space, they have $6 million in cap space. Like, why didn't they utilize that? I don't know if they were in on any guys. I don't know. I feel like there were some players that were linked to Winnipeg, but they said no. I think they rescinded. I can't remember who exactly, but there was some talk about that. So anyways, yeah, Winnipeg's another team that I would have liked to see do more. I also think that they might have looked at getting a backup goaltender. I'm not 100% sold on Eric Comrie as a backup for them, and yeah, that could be something that may bite them if Hellebuck goes down. I always think you need a good backup goaltender. No problem. Dallas, at what cost? I disagree, but that's why we play the games. As far as the Canucks games go, they ran into a hot 10D last night. Going to happen. Yeah, but I also think just the scoring, like I can tell you as someone who was at the game last night, they didn't have a lot of good scoring chances. Let's go to your first point, though. Dallas, at what cost? You say at what cost? This is it. You got to go all in right now if you're Dallas. They're another team that's been hovering around. They went to the finals a couple of years ago. Like they're a team that needs to go for broke. And I think one of the reasons Dallas hasn't won the Stanley Cup is because they haven't made big risky moves. And I think this is a good one. Again, Rantanen did not play great in his tenure in Carolina, but with Dallas, I think there's enough supporting pieces where he can thrive in a place like that. So for me, I'm fine with the move. Look at a team like Vegas. That's one thing you have to give them credit for. They've done all types of moves that were not popular at the time and worked out for them because they ended up winning a cup. They get Jack Eichel. They get Pietrangelo. They send Marc-Andre Fleury out of town, which was not a popular move by a lot of people. They let Marchessault and some other play. I'm trying to remember who else left Vegas last year. Yeah, Marchessault was one. I'm trying to remember who the other one was that left in free agency. But like they're just willing to part with players just to make the team better. So I admire that with franchises. I'd rather teams do that and take big swings than sit on the sidelines and think, what if? And I feel like Dallas had done that the last couple of years. They made some moves, but they didn't make any sort of impact moves. I think now getting someone like Mikko Rantanen has to put them over the top because, again, find me a weakness in Dallas right now. You can't really find one. They're so well balanced in all facets. The one thing I will say is I think they need to be a little bit tougher in the playoffs. I think one of the reasons they lost to Edmonton last year, they weren't gritty enough. And, I think there are guys on this team this year that have certainly stepped up and shown that a little bit more. So, I think you're right, Sean, that Dallas certainly gave up a lot to get Mikko Rantanen in terms of the picks and all that. But look, listen, they have guys like Stankoven in the pipeline already that are coming up. They have a good drafting system. So losing a guy who's having a down year, not a huge deal there, getting rid of the picks. And remember, they're going to have guys coming off the books this year. I believe Jamie Benn's off the books. Who else did they have off here? Actually, no. Tyler Seguin's going to be up in a couple of years. Man, that contract doesn't look good. But he's in. I don't think he's ever going to play again. It feels like he's barely played at all. How many games has Seguin played over the last couple of years? I don't even remember. Let's have a quick look. So Tyler Seguin has played 19 games this year. He played 68 last year. But yeah, this year only 19 games. So he's getting around 50 points. We're long removed from the season he got 80 points. That was back in 2018, 2019. So you're kind of paying him a lot. They're going to miss Tanev come around too. I would agree with that. Yeah, I would agree. But listen, Tanev was always wanting to get security and, Toronto, he's from the area in Toronto, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that played into the role as well as far as Tanev going to the Leafs as opposed to staying with Dallas. Yeah, maybe. Okay, I'll take that back. Maybe that is one area they could be a little bit better is if they got a little bit more sandpaper. But again, talent-wise, hard to find a team that's a little bit better than Dallas. So that's kind of what we're looking at. Let's look at some other moves that happened. I don't want to lose sight of the topic of today. Again, I know we're a number of days removed from the deadline, but we do the show once a week. So I want to kind of look back a little bit because I think it's easy to forget all the moves that have happened. Who do I like tonight as far as games go? I like Calgary. I hate to say it. Someone who, I will absolutely admit I'm a Vancouver Canucks fan. I think Calgary, with them being at home, right? Because I believe Canucks are on the road in this one. And Canucks just played last night. That's got to be tough on them. So right now you've got Calgary as home favorites at -147. You're getting them under 2-1. I think that's worth a stab there. Looking at some other games, the Canadiens just played last night against the Kraken. I think the Kraken might be worth a bet. I don't know if Montreal will be able to replicate. I mean, let's be honest, Montreal collapsed a little bit later in that game with them, the Canucks getting 2 goals there. Canucks were actually controlling play for most of the game. Kraken are not a good team, but again, they're at home. I think -150 might be worth a stab there. Anaheim and Utah. Utah, you're getting them as big favorites at -285. Not a whole lot of value there, although you could parlay that with something like Calgary maybe. Because again, I think the Canucks, they're out of steam and they got no scoring. So that for me. And also, who's starting tonight for the Canucks? Rick Tocchet not committing to a goaltender last night. That's another thing to keep an eye on. If Arthur Seelovs plays in net, we've seen him not play so well. Again, Lankinen started out the game not so great for the Canucks last night, and I think he's kind of being overplayed as well. So we'll see how that goes with the Canucks and the Flames tonight. But yeah, not a ton of action here on my end. I do like the Kraken. And I do like the Flames here. I'm staying away from Buffalo and Detroit because Buffalo's actually been playing quite well lately, last couple games. So I'll probably just stay away from that. It's been so fun since the deadline. Vancouver last night game was fun. Well, it wasn't fun early on. It looked like the Canucks were going to have a total meltdown. At least they clawed their way back into it. But yeah, it was looking really dicey early. And that's a theme of the Canucks for the last several years. They keep giving up first goals. I don't know who's to blame for that at this point. No idea. Yeah, let's go over some of the moves from last week. And again, keep the questions coming, guys. Again, this is your show. You guys dictate where we're going here. So more than happy to hear your opinions here. By the way, I noticed my light's a little dark in here. Gonna see if I can lighten things up a little bit. Let's see what we got. Is that better? Yeah, it's a little bit better. There we go. A little bit more light. So yeah, Brandon Carlo going from the Bruins to the Leafs. They trade Fraser Minton, which I know is one of their better prospects, and a first-round pick in 2026. I mean, Leafs were not going to be picking very high, although 2026 draft is going to be very good. But yeah, listen, Carlo, I like the move, and he's got, I believe Carlo's got some term as well. So that's another benefit of getting a really good defenseman on that end. And Brandon Carlo, though, I feel like Carlo's been injured a little bit. I might be wrong about that. Have a quick look at his stats here, but yeah, Carlo, you've got for a number of seasons at a pretty good cap hit at 3.4. Let's see. So yeah, he okay, never mind. I take that back. I was thinking of maybe someone else, but yeah, he played 76 games, only played 63, or I guess 63 this year. So he's been fairly active overall. And again, 28 years old, getting him at a good time. Not like a huge contract there. Not too bad for the Leafs on that one. The Leafs also unloading Connor Dewar and Connor Timmins, two players who weren't really working out for them. This is the big one. Brad Marchand getting traded from the Bruins to the Florida Panthers now, and the Boston retains 50% of his contract. Of course, Marchand a UFA, he could still go back to Boston. But what we were hearing the other day was apparently the Marchand wanted more money. The Bruins were not willing to go that high. He said, let's have a face-to-face. We'll have a compromise. And Bruins wouldn't budge. And they end up trading their longtime captain. Like, that's, as much as the Canucks have had bad PR, I think the Bruins, you talk to some of the fans and the media there, they're not happy. And the fact that it only got a second-round pick for that. I mean, Anthony Beauvillier went for a second-round pick in the trade earlier, and Brad Marchand fetched the same thing. Like, I don't know why the Bruins didn't ask for more, maybe because it was at the last minute. But again, like, I think even if the Canucks had got a second round pick for Brock Besser, fans are not going to be as upset as opposed to keeping him. At least they got something for Marchand. So, yeah. Obviously, a lot of other like small trades here that we can talk about. Cody Glass traded again. He's been on how many teams now? Vegas, Nashville, Pittsburgh, now New Jersey. Eric Johnson going back to the Avs. That's a good story. Eric Brandstrom traded again. So he reunites with Carson Soucy and JT Miller. Oh, no, sorry. Brandstrom left the Rangers, and goes to Buffalo. So, yeah, he's now bounced around from a couple different teams. What was some other big moves here? Just looking. Charlie Coyle, another selling piece. Casey Middlestat gets traded. So we'll see if Casey Middlestat can find new life with the Bruins. I actually like that trade for the Bruins. But, buying on a guy who was a little bit disappointing, maybe there's some upside there. Bruins have always struggled at the center position, so that would be a good move from there. And Charlie Coyle certainly will help the Avalanche with all that experience and everything else that he brings to the table. Detroit getting another goaltender. I'm not really sure why. Peter Mrazek, although I guess they've traded, they've traded a few of their guys already. So that would make sense. We mentioned the Rantanen one, 2 firsts, 2 thirds. I don't mind the trade. Take a big swing. Dallas is not going to be picking high for the next couple of years anyways. They've got a really solid team here. Scott Laughton, that was another big one for the Leafs, getting him, trading another first-round pick. So the Leafs, again, same thing with the Leafs. Like, we're talking about teams that are trading a lot of draft picks. This is the time to do it, especially with the uncertainty with Mitch Marner. Like, this might be your best shot at having a really, really good team for the next little bit. Go all in. I love that move for the Leafs. So you get Laughton. I believe Laughton, I'm trying to remember if Laughton's up. If his contract's up or not. No, he's got another season at 1.5. Again, not bad. The Leafs, again, get a bit of sandpaper and a guy that, again, has got that experience. Brandon Tanev, like that move. Luke Shen. I've always been a big Luke Shen fan. You know the story with him. High draft pick with the Leafs. Had that trade for James Van Riemsdyk years ago to Philly. Bounced around a little bit, was in the minors. Looked like his career was over. Changed his game, and now he's been a serviceable defenseman. This was the big trade we broke on air. Dylan Cousins going to the Senators for Josh Norris. Cousins, by the way, looks like he's been a great fit for the Senators already. I believe he scored again last night. Yeah, again, 2 guys that needed to change the scenery. Don't mind that at all. Kuzmenko going to the Kings. Did Kuzmenko score last night? Wanted to actually have a look at that. I wish Kuzmenko well. I liked him when he was in Vancouver. He's a fun, exciting player. He just doesn't play defense. So you don't get a lot of the coach's trust when you're not playing a ton of defense. Did he even play last night? What's going on here? Oh, that's the Islanders. That's why. Kuzmenko, 3 shots on goal. So that's good at least, but no points for him last night. What are some other moves? Jake Wallman, we mentioned that. Again, Beauvillier getting a second-round pick. I point to that and I go, how can the Canucks not even get a second-round pick for Brock Besser? I'm sure they could have. Because Brock Besser is a hell of a lot better of a player than Anthony Beauvillier. Nothing against Beauvillier, but come on. So... yeah, and again, Edmonton, I do wonder if Edmonton's going to regret not getting a goalie. I don't know who is available, but, I do think they need something different there. I do worry about that a little bit. And then obviously the Avs getting Brock. Yeah, the Avs are another big winner too, getting Brock Nelson. That was a good move. Sort of replaces Middlestat, and they also have Charlie Coyle down the middle. So, yeah, a lot of interesting moves. For the deadline, Brian Dumoulin getting a second-round pick and going to the Devils as well. So the Devils doing quite well. And this is the big one, too. The Lightning getting Bjorkstrad, Gord, Kyle LaCoin. The Kraken getting 2 first-round picks. Again, Devils, same thing. Or Lightning, same thing. Like, they're trying to win with this group. Might as well go all in. Makes sense. So, Yeah, good trade deadline. I actually really enjoyed this deadline. A lot of good movement. Sometimes it's tough in a cap era to make a lot of moves and a lot of trades. So it can be a little bit difficult. So glad to see that GMs are willing to take some swings and do that. Keep the questions coming, everyone. We'll keep this going. Maybe do like another 10, 15 minutes around here. Again, this is your show. You guys tell me what you want to talk about. Lots on our mind here today, or lots, like I said, we can get into as well. What else is on your mind? Any other news that's going on right now? I'm trying to think of any injury stuff. I'm going to be keeping an eye on if Quinn Hughes will be played. Yeah, this Mikko Rantanen thing. People are how about the this is something we should get into. A little gossip in the NHL world. Rasmus Dahlin. So there was a report out from Spit and Chicklets that that Dahlin's not happy and doesn't like how things are going in Buffalo, and then Dahlin angrily denies that he wants to be traded. And now I'm getting a paywall. I want to show you guys the article right here. Again, I don't think Paul Bissonnette's just making up something for nothing. I would think he's got good intel there. So yeah, Dahlin blasts reporting of threatening trades as Sabres don't improve. I mean, you can kind of understand it, right? Talk about franchise. I mean, Buffalo's got to be the most frustrating franchise of a fan of anyone. We had Mike Straw in here last week. Like, how many years has it been since they made the playoffs? Let's go look. It's been, when was the last time they made the playoffs? And the thing is, like, they've kind of done the rebuild and it hasn't worked out. And that sucks. Like, that's the one danger that I think a lot of fans got to realize, because a lot of people in Vancouver want to rebuild. You do a rebuild, Quinn Hughes is like gone like tomorrow, right? Like, he's not going to stick around for that. Probably Pettersson too. Like, these are guys that they're not going to want to stick around for that. So sometimes if you have assets, sometimes it's better to just build on the fly as opposed to going for a full out rebuild, because you can be like, now look, like we're seeing other teams that it is working out. Anaheim seems to be pretty legit. Montreal's done a bit of a rebuild too. They look good. They've got a lot of assets and a lot of things to play with in terms of draft picks. But some teams it doesn't work out, and Buffalo's a good example. So I'm just looking here. Yeah, they have not been to the playoffs since the last time Lindy Ruff was head coach, and that was back in 2010, 2011. It's 2025, and the Buffalo Sabres are still nowhere near making the playoffs. And look at all the coach changes in there, too. Ted Nolan, Dan Bilesma, Phil Housley, Ralph Kruger, Don Granato, Lindy Ruff. Like, you got to kind of feel for this team, right? So, yeah, it sucks. Like, just nothing will give. Who's your division winners? So in the East, I think it'll end up being Washington. I think they have too much of a gap right now in Florida. So I'll go Washington in the East. And I think Winnipeg will probably hold up in the West. Dallas, I think I could see Dallas or Vegas possibly catching them, but I think it'll end up being those guys. What else is on your mind, everyone? Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Helps with the algorithm and all that good stuff. What else? So this is, again, going back to the Brock Besser stuff, which I think is interesting. Also, I had a tweet the other day that a lot of people were agreeing with and a lot of people got upset with. So we'll get to that tweet in a second, guys. And this show's not about me, but it's about driving a discussion. I'd be more than happy to do that. So Rick Dollywall, who's very much connected with the Vancouver Canucks, some say Hurricanes offered first-round pick for Besser in the final half hour of NHL trade deadline. So if you guys missed it last week, Patrick Alvin, I'm going to find the quote from Alvin last week. This is a hot topic here in Vancouver because, again, Alvin not able to trade Brock Besser, according to him. Here we go. So this is from Reddit, but this is the exact quote. If I told you what we were offered for Brock Besser, I'd have to run out of here because you wouldn't believe me, meaning like they didn't get good offers. So in doing that, Alvin also kind of threw Besser under the bus, saying like, hey, this guy's not as good as other people think he is. Yeah, see, there's people saying he disrespected. So yeah, there's that. And then there's the talk of so there's the talk that he didn't get good offers. Now, look, I just showed you Anthony Beauvillier. I've shown you Luke Shen. I mean, these are guys that got at least second-round picks. Brock Besser's better than both those players. He's a UFA. I understand you would be getting him as a rental. There's no guarantees he would re-sign. You're telling me that can't fetch a first-round pick? I tend to believe what Dollywall says here, that there were better offers. On top of that, Nick Kyprios, I got to find the quote here on Twitter, also mentioning that there were other offers. Let's have a look here. Let me find the quote here. Saying that there were other offers. There we go. Nick Kyprios saying that I had a source from another team tell me the offers weren't that bad. He thinks the Canucks got a decent offer for two for Boeser. So again, that kind of goes against what Alvin was saying, was that that he couldn't get anything good. So this is what I wrote on Twitter, and of course some people were upset with me for saying this, but I think it's totally fair. So let's bring up the tweet here. You guys let me know if you agree or not. Because my theory is the owner / management is hell-bent on making the playoffs. So I had this tweet the other day, and I said this. All Patrick Alvin had to do was admit the Canucks management wants to make the playoffs. They didn't want to load up on picks, felt like trading Brock Boeser would hurt that. So my idea here was basically like, look, like they want to make the playoffs. It's super important to them. Just say that. Like, he's doing this thing where he's pretending like that's not what they want to do, and he's trying to tell the fans that no, it's because we didn't have good offers. But let's be honest here. I think the owner definitely wants to make the playoffs. He wants that playoff revenue, Francisco Aquilini. Then you've got the management who's probably like, you know what? Because there's a school of thought that if you make the playoffs, it helps the other players on the team know what it's like to win. So I would even be fine if they were just transparent about that. So, and then I was a little harsh on this, but whatever. I said instead he lied to everyone, smeared Boeser in the process. Now the reason I used the word lied is because there's been multiple reports that there were better offers. So this idea that there were no good offers, and again, we've got other proof in this in some of the deals that went down that day. Like, why is it that like I said, like a Luke Shen can get a second round pick or a Anthony Beauvillier? You're telling me Brock Boeser couldn't get that or better? And I think if Canucks fans got a second round pick for Boeser, I think Canucks fans would be fine with that. What you don't like, what is always going to make fans upset and angry, is when you have UFAs walk for nothing. This happened with Calgary with Johnny Gaudreau. This happens, with Jake Getzel in Carolina. Like, we've seen this season and season. And again, I think the plan for the Canucks was, I think they did want to trade Boeser. But I think because we have sort of a catalyst for what the Canucks have done earlier, which is when they traded JT Miller, they took the first round pick they got in the deal for Miller and they flipped it for Marcus Pettersson. I think that's what the Canucks wanted to do this deadline, which is nearly impossible. It's very hard to do a trade with picks to another team, as most teams are trying to load up anyways. So that's what I think happened. And again, just to go back to the tweet here, said he lied to everyone, smeared Boeser in the process because he was devaluing his trade value, and I said PR nightmare. So, a lot of people agreed with me. Some other people said, hey, what are you talking about? The offers weren't good. Like, there was some rumor out there that, like, Brock Boeser was offered a first-round pick, but then you had to take a roster player in return. I've never heard of that, and we didn't. I mean, other than maybe, like, the Michael Bunting deal, like, I can't think of another deal that happened on trade deadline day where someone had to take another bad contract back. You just don't see that happen too often. So that's, like, I don't really buy that. Yeah, it was Bunting here. And how many more seasons does Bunting have? Maybe Carolina or Nashville wanted Bunting. How many more seasons is Bunting under contract? I don't think it's that much. So that's sort of my overall thoughts in it. How long's Bunting signed for? Yeah, he's got what this season and next season. Then he's done. So I tend not to believe that. If there was a first offer, they should have considered it. I don't know if that's real. I think it was real. So what I think, to be more clear here, I think they could have got a first-round pick. But I think the issue was they didn't want to keep picks because they were worried, like, they want to make the playoffs, so you trade a Boeser, then your offense is even more dried up. And they couldn't flip that pick during the same time frame to get a roster player. That's what I think happened. I think if they had a guarantee they could get another team in on this and trade the first-round pick for them for a roster player, I think they would have done it. I also think the Canucks were in on Josh Norris and maybe Dylan Cousins as well, and they weren't able to pull the trigger, and Ottawa just had the best deal, and they were able to do it, or Buffalo had the best deal, I guess, because they ended up trading with each other. So I think, honestly, that's what happened, is I think that they, once those center, because the Canucks need a center, they need more offensive scoring. They have not, like, that's been a big issue since JT Miller's been gone. They have not scored as much as they're used to scoring. But again, it's not just on Miller. I think the entire team is underperforming. And Boeser's been an absolute ghost. I mean, I have some empathy towards him with like I said, the GM kind of throws him under the bus. He's in a contract year. It's probably really stressful. He's not playing up to his potential, but Brock Boeser, he's had an okay season, right? What's Brock at? But compared to last season, he's actually not having a very good season. So if we look at last year, Brock Boeser had 73 points. This year, he's got 38. Granted, 30 games less, but he's not going to get 73 points. If you look at what he encompassed last year, and last year was a career year for him, typically he's getting in the 50 range. He should still hit that this season, but again, last night, no points. You're having too many games where you're not getting it done. So that's kind of where I look and think like, I don't know. I think if you polled most Canucks fans, if you talked to most of the people, they would have rather had picks and had the Canucks miss the playoffs than keep him and probably still miss the playoffs anyways. That's where it's at. What do you think of Utah's first year and what name will they pick? I think they're going to end up staying with Hockey Club. My understanding is they can't go with Yeti because of this stupid company, although I shouldn't call them stupid because I really like their mugs. Apparently they filed like a trademark or something and said you can't use our name as like a team name. What would have been smart was, I don't know if there was a way to do this, but like why not get this Yeti company to like partner with the Utah Hockey Club and like do some sort of cool promotion where they sell Yeti mugs in their store or something. I don't know. It's going to end up being Utah. And as far as Utah's first year, it's been great. They made some really good moves in the offseason. I love the John Marino trade. I love them getting Dursey. They're a team that, again, same sort of thing, going back from Arizona. They were a rebuilding team in Arizona, and now we're starting to see the fruits of their labor come to form this year. I mean, they might make the playoffs this year. The way they're going, it could happen for sure. Did you end up coming to Utah for a game? Yeah, I went to the game earlier in December. I went to both games. So I went to the Utah game I think it was the Wednesday night, and then the Thursday night I went to the Vegas game, which, by the way, highly recommend going to see a hockey game in Vegas. If I haven't said it already on here, it's the best crowd in the league. I haven't been to every arena, but it's got to be up there. As far as the crowd atmosphere, the pregame show, it's awesome. Utah was good. Is it somewhere I'd want to go back again? Maybe. I think Utah's a nice city. It's just nothing like special. And I think the arena, they got to get a new arena because where I was sitting, Upper Bowl, you can't see the play. So if we got the ice. It's like it's kind of like like an ice rink, right? So if like if you're on this end and your player goes into the corner this way where you're facing, you can't see them because it disappears. Because the way the seats work, it's meant for basketball. The seats kind of overlap, so like you have to look at the screen when certain players go in the corner. That's an issue. That's a big problem. Also, I mentioned this before when I went to Utah, which is ridiculous. I know they have strict liquor laws, but like, why not just like you can't buy alcohol if you're a foreigner without a passport, which is ridiculous. So they wouldn't take my government ID. It's crazy. I don't get that. NHL sells Yeti products on their website. So frustrating. Yeah, I mean, the Yeti's the name. That's the best name right there. I hope they don't go with Hockey Club. This isn't soccer. Okay? We have enough soccer clubs that are called like Football Club or whatever it's called. Like enough with that. Let's get an actual name in there. Plus, it's good for kids. Like, what kid wants to wear like a Hockey Club jersey as opposed to like a Yeti jersey? That would be way better. I hope Utah comes to their senses. I think Mammoth's still in play. I'd rather go with Mammoth. Mammoth sounds cool. And I will say, I do like Utah's color scheme with the teal, the white, and sort of that dark blue. I think that looks really cool. But come on, let's get, I wasn't even a big fan of them going with the Kraken. But you know what? I think they got good colors. I don't mind the Kraken. It's like this whole monster thing. That's cool. It's fine by me. That's why I moved to St. George near Vegas. Utah is Yeah, I mean, Utah is just like a regular city. I will say it's nice and clean and, everything's reasonably priced. That's one thing that actually blew me away. Like, I remember going out for lunch and being like, that's it? That's how much I have to pay? That's nothing. Vegas, meanwhile, everything's overpriced there. Got to be Outlaws. Outlaws, too, I'd be fine with. Yeah, that would be cool, too. Although, doesn't that kind of defeat the purpose? Isn't Utah, like, very, like, strict in terms of, like, their government laws and stuff? So are they really outlaws? Texas would be more outlaws, I think. No Mammoth in Utah history. Yeah, but Mammoth is like a cold animal, right? Like, so Mammoth would kind of fit the bill for Utah being cold. You too, Sean. Thanks for stopping by, buddy. We do the show every week, so hopefully you'll be here next week. I really appreciate it. By the way, got to mention, guys, friend of the show, Dave Hall. You guys remember him on here. He's been on the show a few times. He's the guy to go to when it comes to Canucks prospects. I got to meet him last night. He was at the game, so I went and chatted with him for a bit. Shout out to my guy, Dave Hall. Really, really good dude. Go check out all of his work on Canucks Army. Does some awesome work there. Okay, guys, let's get maybe like one or two more questions in here, and then we'll wrap things up. Again, a bit of a shorter show today. I'll try and get a guest on next week. I might get Avery back on to talk about the Oilers. They're not doing so great right now. Curious to see how they're going to be looking going into the playoffs. What else is on your mind, everyone? Let me know. All right, that's the Bueller line in Ferris Bueller's Bueller. No one responded there. Just one more time, guys. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. I do the show every Wednesday. It's kind of like a recap show. We look back on things. We look ahead to everything else. Sorry, we'll get Nick's question here. No, the history of Utah's outlaws. Even Mormons were outlaws. The federal government. Okay, I'll take your word for it. I'll take you. You would know better than me. Again, make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell. I will be back next Wednesday, guys, talking about all the action. Maybe we'll do some playoff streams. We'll see if I'm up and I'm watching the games. I might hop on here and maybe we'll do like a watch along or something. I don't know. We're thinking of some different ideas here for the Fanatics View Hockey Show. We're still slowly brick by brick building this thing up. But yeah, and you guys can follow me on Twitter @LynchOnSports. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Really appreciate it. I'll see you next week. Have a good rest of your Wednesday, and I'll talk to you guys next week. Take care.